Hi, I'm Paula Gomes dos Santos. Me and my colleagues Fábio Albuquerque and Carla Martinho, we came from Lisbon Accounting and Business School, Portugal. We bring you our paper entitled The Emergency Remote Teaching During the COVID-19 Pandemic from the Perspective of Higher Education Students in Portugal. The COVID-19 pandemic led several countries to a general lockdown. In Portugal, the first wave of this pandemic led to a general lockdown and the closure of face-to-face classes in higher education from March to May 2020. Therefore, HIEs abruptly moved to online education with no preparation time and thereby called emergency remote teaching, with this process being made generally with no consideration for the specific conditions of the students or the teachers. Literature identifies some vectors that justifies the student's perception as pedagogical matters, personal or motivational students' characteristics, and technological issues. So the study aims to analyze the higher education students' perceptions of Portuguese online learning during the COVID-19 pandemic by reference vectors. A questionnaire developed for this purpose was conducted amongst Portuguese higher education students that took synchronous online classes during the lockdown and made available through Google Forms in July 2020. The analysis is based on 2,107 valid answers. A 5-point Likert scale was proposed, being 1 not important and 5 very important. Factor analysis by principal component analysis with very max rotation was carried out to identify the items that integrate the explanatory dimensions. Then, the question on online classes quality during the pandemic was transformed into a dummy variable with points 4 and 5 of the Likert scale codified as 1 and 0 otherwise. To determine the predictive values of students' perceptions, binary logistic regression was then used with that question as a dependent variable. The analysis used the SPSS. Regarding the online classes during the lockdown period, 46% of the students classify them as good or excellent. That will be the dependent variable of the logistic regression model to be proposed. Based on the sample, 59 are female, 58 are under 22 years old, and 53% are from courses in business and economics. These variables will be subsequently included as independent variables of the logistic regression models besides the factors extracted from the PCA. Finally, most of the students, 88%, have their personal computers to attend the online classes. This distinction will be used as a group of analysis within the logistic regression to assess the difference that may arise among students that had or did not have possible constraints to attend the online classes. Following, exploratory data analysis was initiated by performing PCA with the twofold objective of reducing the items under study by aggregating them into factors. Table 2 presents different items included in the identified factors. To validate the use of PCA, Bartlett and Kaiser-Meyer-Hawkins tests were used, and the overall adequacy of factor expression via PCA is verified. Items with a factor loading lower than 0.5 were disregarded. After verifying the cumulatives of the items and estimates of the PCA model, the values and percentages of the explained variance were obtained, which led to the identification of 5 factors that explain almost 68% of the total data variability. Afterward, it was analyzed the commonality ranges of those items as well as Cronbach's alpha to ascertain the internal consistency within each factor, which are presented in table 3. By simplification, each factor was renamed according to the items included. F1, teachers' overall quality regarding pedagogical matters. F2, performance and autonomy. F3, constraints and obstacles to socialization. F4, self-confidence while attending online classes. F2 to F4 can be seen as part of the student's personal or motivational characteristics. And finally, F5, internet access conditions, which are related to the technical issues from the student's perspective. Following, logistic regression was used as a model for the probability of occurrence of an event as presented in equation 1. The models were created based on a general equation 2. As previously indicated, 3 models were performed. The first one, called the overall model, included the total sample obtained. The 2 additional models used the subsamples from the distinction of students that had G1 or did not have G2 possible constraints to attend the online classes. The student's perspective on the online classes during the lockdown, motivated by the pandemic, was used as a dependent variable. The 5 factors previously identified as well as 3 demographic variables, gender, age, and course, was proposed as independent variables. The test results presented indicate the existence of a good adjustment of the proposed models. Table 4 includes the betas, world statistics, and the significance levels for the models proposed, overall, G1 and G2. Regarding the overall model, all 5 factors from the PCA are statistically significant at 1% level. The remaining independent variables, comprised of the demographic ones, do not seem to be relevant in explaining the dependent variable. By subgroups of analysis, the 5 factors from the PCA remain statistically significant at 1% level for the model that has a subsample classified as G2. For the one classified as G1, F4 is not statistically significant. Minor differences can be also seen for the remaining independent variables. So for the discussion, based on the overall model, all 5 factors found appear to be significantly and positively related to the student's perception of the quality of online classes. The exception is the F3, constraints and obstacles to socialization. However, this may be explained by the inclusion of items that are seen as constraints or obstacles in distance education. Then, the negative relationship is aligned with the need of mitigating them as a path to improve the student satisfaction. This corroborates literature as the greater difficulty in some subjects and the lack of face-to-face interaction with teachers and colleagues are appointed by students as factors against online classes. The factor with the higher coefficient is F1, teachers' overall quality, which highlights the importance of the pedagogical matters from the student's perspective. The second one is F5, internet access conditions, which are related to the technological issues from the student's perspective. This topic is particularly highlighted by research developed during the pandemic, which pointed out the technical infrastructure as most relevant in influencing the student's perception towards distance learning. Based on the findings, it may be stressed the divergence that arise from the model performed for G1, which had the F4 self-confidence while attending online classes as not being significant. This highlights the need of considering the students' conditions to attend the online classes to improve their quality and therefore the learning process. Understanding the factors that may explain student satisfaction with online education is relevant and useful for decision makers in this area to plan their actions either in ordinary or rapid transitions. It is also worthwhile to stress the current evolution of the pandemic, which brings new challenges for the future of higher education programs namely in what concerns the decision between face-to-face, online, or blended learning. The knowledge of these factors may also improve the pedagogical methods and the technical infrastructure that should be available to increase the overall quality of online classes. The study presents as main limitation the fact that data was obtained through a questionnaire with its associated subjectivity. As evidence in this field, it is suggested for future research to explore other variables that may be seen as constraints or limitations of a good overall quality of online classes from the student's perspective. Furthermore, the perspective of quality can also be better explored from not only in terms of student satisfaction, but also through their performance. Here are some references. Thank you for your attention.